Welcome everyone to our Wednesday afternoon Attraction and Action Mastermind, where every week we get to mastermind around what you want to talk about. Now, we got a very special guest today, somebody I've known for well over a decade, just a total rock star. I mean, if I could compare him to something, it would be like the Energizer Bunny. Seriously, just boom, 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 just go, 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 go. And this guy is just, he's on fire at EXP. He's grown a massive revenue share organization. And today he's going to tell you what he does, how he does it. He's going to give you some advice. He's going to improve your knowledge, your skills, your mindset, your habits through this process. And you're going to hang up the Zoom meeting. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to be inspired. You're going to be motivated. You're going to want to make that next attraction call. And it's all about the number of conversations that you can create. At the end of the day, if you want more attraction opportunities, all you need to do is create more conversations. And Hank's going to show you what he's done to build a massive rev share organization. So Hank, welcome to our call, my brother.
I'm so excited to be here. The 1 hour today that I didn't have scheduled, it worked. So it's simple. It's not easy. Sean, where have we heard that before? we won't say. Now,
Hank and I are both former Bold coaches. I ran that program for years and years and years. And Hank was one of the best coaches. He inspired the audiences and held their rapt attention. Think about this, 8 hours a day for 7 weeks in a row. Well, 1 day a week for 7 weeks in a row, essentially, right? And to hold somebody's attention for that long in front of them on a stage is really quite challenging. There's no doubt about that. Yet, Hank, you mastered it, no doubt about it. All right.
Well, I appreciate that. And one of the other bold laws was the way you participate here is the way you participate everywhere. So let me ask you right now, how are you showing up today? Are you showing up the way that you're interested, or are you committed? So when we look at this, we're going to break down some math for you. And for those of that you are listening, I actually have it tattooed on my forearm where it says math versus drama. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a simple formula that if you look to do it, there's no way that you can fail unless you suck. Now, is there anybody on here that just sucks? I didn't think so.
So, Hank, real quick, as you said, how you participate here is how you're going to participate everywhere. So I'm just going to ask everybody, turn your cameras on. I mean, unless you're in the shower watching this, please turn your cameras on, because here's what I know. When you turn your camera on and I can see you and you can see me, we all show up at a much, much higher level. So go ahead and turn your cameras on. I want you to get your notepad and get your pen out, because Hank's just going to pour it on today. So take it away, Hank.
Love it. We're going to keep this super simple. Now, I'm going to assume that all of you would like to go fast. I'm going to ask that we make two things clear here. One, are you committed? So I teach 6 C's. The first C is committed. The last C is consistency, and we need both of them. So I'm going to give you a simple formula. And here's what it is. And I'm going to ask that you write this down, because we know when we write things down, you're much more likely to remember it. Have a call, book a call. So here's your goal. We have a program that's called our Success Code, and it's skill set, time on task, experimentation, till you get a victory and you get confidence. How many of you lack confidence when it comes to attraction versus your ability when it comes to listing homes? Raise your hand. If you don't have the same level of confidence and swagger with attraction as you do with listing homes, here's what we need to go back and do. We need to get more skill set. We need to get more time on task. We need to get more consistent experimentation until we get some victories and we get some confidence, because how we list homes is oftentimes how we will attract. Now, here's the simple math behind winning with EXP. Have a call and book a call every single day. So if you have a call and book a call every single day, and we fast forward, who's been here for at least 3 years and willing to be picked on? So Sue, I'll pick on you. Do you got a good audio video right there?
Yes.
Okay. Sue, how long have you been with EXP?
6 years.
6 years. Are you willing to be a little bit uncomfortable?
Yes.
Okay, that didn't seem convincing. Are you really willing to, can I lean on you just a little bit? I promise I'll be
ready.
nice.
I'm
Okay.
ready.
How many FLAs do you have? Frontline qualifying agents?
None.
Okay. Now, is it a talent issue or is it a time on task issue?
It's a time on task issue.
Okay, so Sue, let's go back to day one. If on day one, all you did was you went to have a call and book a call every single day, and that's what your scoreboard was, you either won the day or you lost the day based on this one metric, having a call and booking a call, do you think that you'd have more results today than what you have? Yes, it's simple math, right? So here's what I'm going to encourage everybody to do. Let's get started and get the confidence before we double down. So does everybody agree that you have the ability to stick your neck out just far enough and behold the turtle? You can't take a step forward until you stick your neck out. We taught that in the old class. Here's what I want all of us to look at. Be the turtle when it comes to agent attraction. And once you get the confidence, you can go faster. So here's what it looks like. Have a call and book a call. Well, you'll see here, 50, 25, 1. Here's the formula that I used. I need to get in front of 50 people a day. When I look at people who run a relationship-based real estate business, they get in front of 50 people a day. Now, here's what happens. They're not neutral with them. Sean's like a brother to me. Do brothers sometimes fight? Yes. See, Sean does his attraction a little bit differently than me. I'm more obnoxious. I'm no more aggressive, yada, 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 yada. Either way can work as long as it's true to you. Fair? So here's what I do. Put my hat on backwards. I cuss a little bit. I have some tattoos. The people that are attracted to that might not they be attracted to Sean or vice versa. So if somebody's attracted to Sean, they might not be attracted to me. How many of you think that it's okay if you don't reach everyone? Raise your hand. So here's what we want to do. We want to get them off neutral. They either love you or they hate you, but they remember you. How many of you need to be a little more less neutral and get either a positive or a negative response? So here's what I found. If I get in front of 50 people a day and they at least have energy towards me, that's a good thing. Now in bold, we talked 20 contacts a day. I call it 20 connections because when you connect with someone, is it always a positive interaction?
Never.
Necessarily. When you shake someone's hand, do you get an energy exchange with them where you either like them or you trust them and you're like, oh my gosh, you gave me the heebie-jeebies. Who knows what the heebie-jeebies are? It's like you just don't feel comfortable with them. So my formula was I got to get in front of 50 people a day. I got to have 20 connections. Of those 20 connections, I got to have 5 conversations. And here's what a conversation is. You get them on your social media platform. You get some way of following up with them. You either get their address, their phone number, something where you put them in their human base. Now, here's my goal. Have one conversation a day where I can remember where I was when I talked to that person. Think about that. Who can remember where they were on September 11th? We all can, right? Now, imagine if you had such an impact on another human being that you could remember where they were, where you were when you had that conversation. Who's had some things in their life that's been difficult? So for example, for me, I've been bankrupt. I've had a child go through open heart surgery. I've been through years of marriage therapy. Who can relate to some of those struggles? Anybody? See, when you share and you have real conversations, what you'll find is people, when you're vulnerable, they'll be vulnerable with you. Here's what I love about the place that we're in the business right now. Sean's taught you the positive presence model, right? Positive presence, we got to move them to a negative presence. You don't have to ask too many questions to get people to a negative presence right now. Would we all agree with that?
True.
So here's what I want you to do. I want you to put in your schedule your math. So let's look at the math. If you have a call and book a call every single day, 5 days a week, that's 250 calls. If you have 250 calls, do you now have the skill set to do an EXP attraction call? Say yes.
Yes.
You now have the time on task because you have 250 opportunities. You're no longer experimenting. If I do these activities, I'll get these victories and I'll have this confidence. So 250 times 6, what is that math? I can only do 3% math.
150 or 1,500. Sorry. Carry the
1,500. Now let's look, if we fast forward 6 years from now and you have 1,500 discovery calls, who thinks that you figured out how to bring one person on a month? Say aye.
Aye. Yeah.
All of us, it's simple, it's not easy, but here's what most of us want. We want to be super intense. We want to be super good. We want to look good while we're doing it. And if you can give up looking good and being right, and you're willing to be consistent, you go and you do 1,500 calls after 6 years. And if you don't have 40 plus people in your rev share line and your first line, you suck. Fair or unfair?
Totally.
So
fair.
Sean, his
hey,
mom.
quick, let me just ask a quick question. Okay. So
Yep.
50, you said get in front of 50 people a day. Does that mean you're going to do 50 dials a day?
Yes.
Okay.
Here's why I say yes.
Okay,
Here's what
talk
you
to me.
need to do. You need to be consistent with what you're counting. So now we have math around what your activities are. If you're a dialer, dial 50 a day. When you're consistent, now we can say after a month, well, we made 1,000 phone calls. For 1,000 phone calls, we book 50 appointments. Whatever you count as a 50, be consistent with it so we can get math around it. And after 30, 60, 90, 120 days, we can look at your numbers and say, well, if we want to increase our appointments, we need to increase this. If we need to decrease our appointments because they aren't true appointments, maybe we insert a pre-qualifier here. Who's ever gone to see Jeffrey Dahmer 5 o'clock on a Friday night as a buyer because you were a glorified door opener? Well, at some point you insert a filter, which is a pre-qualification so that you have less appointments, but you get a greater result. So Sean, the most important thing about 50-25-1 is consistently tracking the same way so we get some data around our results. Does that answer your question?
Let me go a little bit deeper. So getting in front of 50 people a day, you're talking about whether you choose to dial, maybe it's a text message, perhaps it's a DM on some social channel, but just getting in front of them somehow, some way. 50 people a day, that leads to 20 conversations a day. Is that right?
Correct. And 20, and are we in social media? Like, is everybody using social media? So let me give you an example of a 50. A 50 is something where people can see it, but you don't have to interact. So who saw the video when I was with Glenn Sanford this week doing a Facebook Live announcing that he was the new CEO? So there was last time I checked, over 1,200 people that are 12,000 views on. There's a lot of views on that. That counts towards the 50. So instead of getting 50 that day, I got over 1,000 of the 50. Who thinks the math is on my side that people are going to see that Hank's talking with a billionaire, our CEO, on Facebook Live? Who thinks that helps with social credibility? Yes. Now what happens is people comment on that video. I'll go and comment. That's the 20. It's just as simple as that, because I know this. If I comment with somebody, there's an energy exchange. Hank, I can't believe you're in a suit. Who thinks that was intentional? That if you know me, I wore a suit that day because it was a pattern interrupted. I wanted people to pay attention. Like maybe Hank was getting a job at corporate, which won't happen, by the way. Yet I was doing a pattern interrupt intentionally. Now what happens is when somebody comments, I comment back. That's the 20, Sean. From the 20, I'm looking to upgrade it to a conversation. So I might slide into their DM and say, hey, I saw that you commented with this. Would you be up for a call? Oh my gosh, are you going to EXP all over me? I don't know. Are you interested in talking about it? No. Okay, I won't bring it up then. And my whole goal is to do this. My whole goal is to engage people at the 50, bring them along to get them on a phone call, which is scheduled via Calendly, because then we have a system in place that has them pick a time. That way I'm not, nailing them down and putting pressure on them. I've gotten a small commitment for them to book a call. And then when they book the call, here's what I'm doing. I'm diagnosing. And Sean and his mom, I want to real quick, Sean and his mom have been the huge, huge influence in my life, and I'll be forever grateful. And here's what Diana did a very good job of instilling in me. Stop prescribing, start diagnosing. Meaning ask questions. She's one of the most masterful people I've ever met in asking questions. You get these people on the calls, ask them questions. Hey, how did your tax planning go this year? Who's done their tax planning for 2023 or 2022 already? I don't know. I paid in $164,000 in taxes this year. So I had a problem. Who would like to have that problem? So I reached out to a person that was doing continuing ed because on New Year's Eve, I was 1 hour short. And she was a former CPA and a real estate agent. What do you think I did? Hey, I got a first world problem. I paid $164,000 so far in taxes this year. Would you be up for a call so I can get your perspective? Who thinks she was fully open to it? Who thinks when I opened up my books to her and I showed her my taxes, she was like, oh my gosh, what's that EXP revenue share? I was like, oh, that's just one of my income streams. She goes, can we talk more about it? Come from contribution. So here's what I want you to do. Stop overthinking it. Get on the call with people. Come from contribution. Ask questions. Be vulnerable. And then guess what? Help enough people get what they want. You'll get everything that you want. And rinse and repeat. Sean, I got a challenge for you.
Talk to me.
I love your wife, by the way. She's one of my most favorite people in the world. What's
Yes,
your
mine too.
anniversary?
September 26th,
September 26th.
1990.
So Sean, I'm going to make a bet with you.
Okay.
Give me any September 26th from 2016 until now. If it's a work day, Monday through Wednesday, possibly Thursday or Friday, I bet you I can tell you what I did every hour on the hour. You pick the year.
Last year.
Last year. So 2022, which I was kind of retired. And what was the date?
September 26th.
September 26th. So that was a Monday. Who thinks I can tell you what I did every hour on the hour? Raise your hand.
I'm not going to tell you what I did on the hour every hour, just so you know.
Sean, I know your age.
That would be inappropriate.
Yeah, let's look at this. If we look at my schedule, every hour on the hour was accounted for. So here's what I'm going to challenge all of you to do. Every hour on the hour that you're doing towards attraction, be able to have it hold up in court where you can make a bet. And Sean, the bet was you're going to share the system that you're using with me, how you set this up, how you set the emails up. Because here's the thing. If 6 years from now, Sue, you can tell me the 5 or 10 or 15 hours a week that you did towards agent attraction, you can defend in court what you did every single one of those hours towards agent attraction, not only where it's in your schedule, you can back it up with a Zoom record or a Calendly record. What are the chances that all of you will be winning with attraction and you don't have to worry about starting over January 1st of the next year? Say aye. So Sean, I didn't come here for another job. Who came here for another job? I came here for freedom. Who wants freedom? So I'm sure Sean's helped you with this. Here's what I need you to do. Figure out your number, your freedom number, where you believe it. We know the bold law, be, do, have. First, you have to be it before you can do it, before you can have it. What is that freedom number? For me, it was 996 because that represented $1 million a year. So here's what I did. The road to 996. I knew I was going to get there. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know what it was going to take, but I gave myself 5 hours a week. 5 hours a week, every single week, where I just kept showing up. Pop quiz. How long do you think it was before I attracted my first agent? 18 months. I spent 5 hours a week for 18 months, and I didn't give up. So my first agent attraction, who wants to know what that script was?
Talk to me.
A friend of mine calls up, Hank, I want to come to EXP. I said, don't. She goes, why? I go, you're a single mom. We're not in your MLS, and I don't want it to screw up your business. Who thinks I was being honest, just like I was in real estate? She goes, Hank, I'm a big girl. I've read the stock. I've done my homework. I will believe in you. I want to come. I said, all right, don't be mad at me when it doesn't work. Did I set the proper expectations for this person? Yes or no? She closed 4 deals in her first 2 weeks, 8 deals the next 30 days. Between her and Dave, another guy that came over, they closed 41 deals. My third check was $3,500. Who thinks that I now had math and I more importantly had confidence with bringing people over? Yes or no? Yes. So let's go back right here. Took me 18 months to get the skill set, time on task, experimentation, to get a victory, to get confidence. Once I had confidence, I went from June of 2017 to January 1st, 95 agents now attracted. Let me say that again. Most of you don't have confidence, therefore you aren't doing the work, therefore you're making excuses, therefore you're not willing to be consistent. Here's what I'm asking. Give me 1 hour a day, 5 days a week to get the skill set, time on task, experimentation, until you get a victory and you get confidence. Once you get confidence, then here's what we'll do. We'll create a one sheet with how many hours you can give. We're going to subtract out some transactional business, which means you need to know your numbers. If you run with me, you have your taxes done on time. Why? Because we can't be calling a play on a football game if we don't know if we're in the fourth quarter, if we're in the first quarter. How many of you need to grow up and get your taxes done, get your numbers done? So when we look at this, once you get the confidence, now it becomes a math equation. My goal is 996. I didn't know how to get there, yet here's what I can tell you now. If you know your freedom number and you do this for 120 days, who thinks that we now have a math equation on how many hours you got to put in order to get the output that you're doing? And then what Diana Kokoska taught me was switch cost. Sean, what's switch cost?
It's where you kind of shift what you focus on, where many of us, we focus on the perception of pain and actually making that call, right? Or doing that Facebook post or commenting on it, the perception of pain, and it's always rejection, right, Frank? I mean, for the most part, or Hank, sorry. Yet when you switch your mindset from focusing on the perception of pain of actually doing the work to the real pain, you guys, the real pain of not doing the work. And the real pain of not doing the work, Hank, talk to me. I mean, you left KW, you went to EXP. You had to create some switch costs there.
Hugely. And here's what it came down to. I had a non-compete that was enforced, whether it was in my mind or whether it was in action, because you get what you deserve in your imagination. And so I started over at 0, because here's what I hear a lot of. Yeah, but you're Hank. Well, here's what I did. Here's my simple formula. First, we had to take care of food, shelter, and water. And here's what I asked myself. If I had one powerful conversation a day with another human being, is there any way 1 year from now that I don't have 10 one-on-one coaching clients paying me $1,000? And the answer was no. So once I believed that to be true, here's what I did. I did 50, 25, 1, and my whole goal is to have one powerful conversation a day. See, what happened was the best thing that ever happened to me was my non-compete, because it forced me to get uncomfortable. How many of you need to be uncomfortable and go get rejected a little bit and just put yourself out there? Most of you make way too much money transactionally, and you've got too much ego, and you're not willing to go get your teeth kicked in again. It says right here, day one mentality. Sean, how many times did I reach out to you about EXP?
Multiple. I just wasn't in the right mindset. See, the outcome of Rain Dance has a lot to do with the timing. There's no doubt about that. We all get that, right? And Hank, you weren't the only one. There were probably 200 people that reached out to me, undoubtedly.
Well, let's look at this real quick. Who thinks that Sean was untouchable when it came to EXP? I mean, he was running a division of Keller Williams. So here's what I did. Hey, Sean, can I follow up with you once a quarter? Yeah, sure, Hank, no problem. Hey, Sean, when I make $100,000, will you sit down and openly, truly look at it? And all I did was I took a chance. Now, here's what I love. Who thinks that when Sean joined through someone else, was that a good thing or a bad thing? It was a great thing. And here's why. I identified somebody that I thought was untouchable, and they came over to EXP, but guess what? I got an at-bat and I struck out, but I still got an at-bat. The number one thing you need to be able to identify is this. Who are people that have the ability and would make the move? Even if you don't get them, here's what you did do. You identified someone that was willing to move. Once you learn how to identify people that are willing to move, it's a numbers game. If you bat 300 in baseball, you're in the Hall of Fame. The number one thing that you need to be able to do is get enough at bats. The number one thing that you need to be able to do is identify people that are willing to change and go to companies. So if you're talking with someone and they go from KW to Coldwell Banker, that's still a win for you because you identified someone who was willing to make the move. Fair or unfair, Sean?
Totally fair.
Now, what you focus on expands. Fair? And I was mad at Sean. I was pissed off. But guess what?
You should have been. You should have been. And we talked through it. And since then, we've kind of moved beyond that. Yet, I like your analogy, though. I mean, we're all on the same team. And so
we're so much better off by having Sean here. Would we agree? Who thinks that Hank's made more money because Sean Kokoska came over? I did.
Yes, that's true. Yes. Good.
100%. Sorry, I jumped all over you. I'm a little bit excited.
You're good. It's one of the things I love about you, Hank, is you get excited. You bring a lot of energy, no doubt about that. So let's finish the thought around switch cost, okay? I mean, what was the pain in your world at that moment that you were pushing away from? So here's what I've learned. There's not many people out there that actually move toward what they gain. Like one of my clients, Mark Spain, last year closed 8,800 transactions, you guys. I asked him, what's your why, Mark? And he's got this Southern drawl, right? He's from Atlanta. And he says, Sean, man, I just love to win. I said, you love to win. Let me ask, Mark, is it that you love to win or do you hate to lose? And you should have seen his face. It just went blank. He's like, and I guess I hate to lose. See, Mark's not unlike all of us. We're motivated through the contrast. You see, it's not about what we're going to gain. It's about the avoidance of pain. And we can build the pain up of not taking the action versus this perception, this mythical pain associated with actually doing the work, right? When we can do that, plus focus on what we gain by taking the action, well, guys, this fear of rejection, this call of reluctance, this, I'm not going to call that person, that tends to go away. You with me on that, Hank?
Yeah, and Diana, I remember sitting on your mom's porch and we were talking about switch cost and pain versus pleasure. And most of us just get it at the surface level. And I'm going to encourage you to lean into this and master switch cost. How do you make the pain of not doing something greater than the pain of doing it? So in the chat, who has their freedom number? For me, my freedom number was 996. So if we look at the time, that number was worth $1 million based on what we believe to be true. We know now know that the 996 is somewhere about $500,000 a year in rev share. Now, these aren't income projections, and I'm sure Sean has some sort of disclosure, but let's look at that. How many of you, if you were making $1 million a year in rev share, you could do pretty well? So let's make that even smaller. Let's go down to $10,000 a month. How many of you believe that you can make $10,000 a month in revenue share if you're willing to do the work? So let's take 120,000 divided by 50. Who can tell me what that 50 comes from? The weeks, right? So that comes out to 2,400. Now I'm asking you to give me an hour a day until you get the confidence. So 2,400 divided by 5 is $480. Now, pop quiz. In the chat, how many listing appointments have you missed in your career once they were scheduled? For most of you, it's 0 because nothing stands in the way of you going to a listing appointment. And here's why. The pain of not going to that, the chances are if you cancel that, you're not going to get the listing. Fair? So here's what I want you to do. You've proven that you can be consistent with something. Treat this hour a day much like a listing appointment, and it will forever change your financial thermostat. So here's what we do. It represents for 5 hours a week, $480 an hour in future, what we call leveraged income. But here's the challenge. Some of you don't feel that pain right now. We need to accelerate that pain forward. So here's what I'm going to have you do. Take your freedom number, divide it by 50, divide it by 5. So at the absolute minimum, I need an hour a day, $480. Now, if you choose not to do your hour that day, take $480 and burn it. And burn it in front of somebody that doesn't have the opportunity. And everybody write this word down, and this is where I'm probably going to get a little aggressive. The word privilege. You guys are in a spot where if you spend 1 hour a day for the next 5 years, you'll never have to work again. There's a high probability if you figure out the skill set, the time on task, the experimentation until you get the victory and you get the confidence, and you figure out agent attraction, you'll have more money than you could ever imagine. And all it's going to take is the consistency of 1 hour a day. So what I want you to think about is how many people in this country would love the opportunity to be financially free in 5 years, and all they have to frickin' do is 1 hour a day. And then you find a reason as to why you can't give an hour a day. And then you go in front of someone who doesn't have that opportunity. You take $480 and say, you know what? I'm privileged. And you burn it in front of them. We have an opportunity that people would die for, and we're pissing it away.
Good point, Hank. There's no doubt about that. Oh, but Hank, that person would never come to EXP. They're very happy where they're at. Come on, guys, you never know. I was happy where I was, and Hank started reaching out to me. And then other people started reaching out to me. And then it just kind of happened, right? It happens eventually. Guys, I think I shared the story with you about 6 weeks ago or so. There's a gal down in Jacksonville. She had shifted from Remax. She moved over to Compass. She was a coaching client of mine, one-on-one. And we worked together every single week for 30 minutes, sometimes 35, sometimes 40. And so she shifts over to Compass. She's opening a new division of Compass for Jacksonville. They didn't have an office there. And she was the person, man, I'm telling you, the person. And she was just on fire about Compass. She started a mastermind group on how to form teams within the Compass network. She quits coaching with me. She said, I'm going to take a 6-week hiatus. I thought about her from time to time.
Yes, the garage. If you want, you can press it. Let me get it.
Let's mute that,
now,
Jim, if you don't mind. Can you mute that?
Well, you can hold on to that. I got the other one here. I'll test this one.
Make sure you're on mute, you guys. Come on. So anyway, I thought about her from time to time, and I figured, well, I'll reach back out to her and see if she wants to re-engage. Next thing you know, I see a Facebook post. You moved from Compass over to EXP. Guys, come on. And it was my fault because I had that mindset, Mick. And by the way, Hank, that's the drunk monkey in my world. It's MIC. It's
Okay.
an acronym. It stands for my inner cynic. Okay. And we all have one. And my inner cynic wants to keep me small, wants to keep me in this little bubble, right? And no, don't make that call. See, Mick's job is to keep me comfortable, to make sure that I'm not risking my precious little ego. Yet the more we risk our ego, you guys, the bigger our bank account balance gets. No doubt about that. So Hank, real quick, I want you to talk a little bit about the EXP Family Tree and what you're doing with, Mitch, Rebecca, and others, Elizabeth Riley and others. So please.
So here's where it came from. We're all missing key relationships in our lives. And I believe that you can have about 120 relationships at any given time. I was missing someone further along the rev share path that I could look up to. And it's because our uplines suck. And I'm saying that because everybody at any given time questions on whether or not they named the wrong person. Look in the mirror. Your upline isn't the problem. It's you. So now that we've got that solved, here's what I want to point out. I was missing Rich Tomasini in my life, somebody that I could look up to a little bit further down the path. And so I reached out to him. I was vulnerable and I wanted a relationship. Well, in order to have a relationship with someone, you need time on task. And I found out he had a similar problem as me. And this is nothing against my upline, but I wasn't getting what I wanted out of my upline. And I also didn't want to create something that I had to service where if I stepped out, I was going to be in trouble and everybody was going to be in trouble too, because it was dependent on me. So Elizabeth Riley, Mitch Ryback, Rich Tomasini, and myself came together and we founded the Family Tree, where it's about the company, not about your upline, where we all come in there. And here's what I want you to do. Help pull the chain. So if you see someone ask a question and you can answer it, because here's what I know. If I wanted to get Glenn Sanford on the line right now, I could get him on the line, but I can only go to that well so many times. In this company, do we need to get our answers at the lowest level possible so that our highest level are doing the highest level activities? Can I get an amen? So here's what the Family Tree is. The Family Tree was the first phase of my freedom plan, because if I had Family Tree and I didn't have to do it by myself, and I got Elizabeth Riley, who's amazing, Mitch, who's amazing, and Rich, we're all pouring into it. So now we're all there. Now here's the plan. If we can help you and you'll help others, it's sustainable, right? Where you don't have to worry about having an awesome upline or if you need to step out, then here's what happens. Now, when you get to 5 in your front line, we created what's called the Builders Group. Who's familiar with the Builders Group? So Maslow's needs of hierarchy. I remember sitting on a influencer's call, and who's ever thought this? This call sucks. All they're doing is bitching. We're not getting anything done. We got 124 people on here. The average is $100,000 an hour. We're burning fuel. We're not getting anything done. So here's what I love about this company. If there's a problem, rather than looking for someone to fix it, you fix it. So here's what I did. I didn't know what a Delta was. I didn't know what a Zeta was. This was our influencers group when I was sitting in these meetings. I said, well, I don't like this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go create the builders and the leaders. Builders is 5, leaders is 10. Who thinks that's simple? So Tuesdays at 1 o'clock Eastern, I started meeting with people who had 5+. Me and Jesse Zerbowski.
And you're talking
then
frontline, right, Hank? Frontline?
Frontline agents. They don't have to even be qualifying. You get to the 5. Now, here's what I know happens. Who's excited to get recognized and you like knowing that, hey, I'm a builder within EXP? We all do, right?
Here's what I learned, Hank. People will work hard for money. They will die for recognition.
Yep. So here's what we did. Here was my thinking. What if we took all the people that had 5 in the company and we all got them into one group? And when we have them in one group, if someone's going from 5 to 10, are they having a lot of the same problems? Yes. So base camp 1 to base camp 2. Base camp 2 is builders. We get people in the builders, and then we leave it better when we left it. Sean, do you remember when you were the head of Bold and I said, hey, we don't want to bother the top coaches with dumb questions. Is it okay if I build a Bold bench page?
I do. Yes.
So what I did was I took all us new coaches and I created a page that was called the Bold bench, where we could ask, how do you book flights? How do you do this? How do you manage this? They were all dumb questions that I didn't want to ask the seasoned coaches, but I needed answers to. And here's what happened. The next coaches that came on board, they could go through and read that whole Facebook page. And who thinks that there was gold there because we were asking dumb questions, but we all needed to know? Who thinks that when you went to the beginning of that, you could go back and read all of that? So when someone says, well, how do we do this? Did you read the Facebook page? No, then go back and read the Facebook page, then come back. Because here's the thing is we got to teach people how to be resourceful in this company. Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
So by a show of hands, how many of you have 5 in your rev share line in it? If you have 5, here's what I'm going to ask that you do. Show up Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. Let's look at the math. 1 hour a week, 50 weeks. After 50 weeks of being in the builders group, is there a good chance that you're going to learn some things? And here's what I want you to do. Don't show up to those calls as a taker. Show up. How can you add value? How can you ask a great question? How can you help Frank? Come from contribution. And then here's what's going to happen. One of your friends is going to leave the group and they're going to go to the leaders. And you're sitting there and you haven't left. So when Mitch, Rich, and Elizabeth went from beta to alpha and they all had 1,000, how was Hank feeling still in the beta group? Like a loser. So I'm like,
Hank, I didn't even know about this until I got to the beta group. I didn't even know about it, but it's
Well,
a brilliant process. So that, and by the way, you said Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, that's Eastern, by the way.
Eastern.
If somebody has 5 people in their group between 5 and 10, how do they find out about the builders group?
Fantastic. There's probably a pretty good chance that you're in it. So if you ever want to reach out to me, you have to reach out to me via workplace, because if it's about EXP, I will not respond to you unless you do it via workplace. And here's why. We found statistically, if people get engaged in workplace, they're more likely to stay within the company. So now we have the leaders group. Leaders group is Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Who's
Eastern.
seeing a pattern here?
Yeah. Wednesday, 1 o'clock Eastern. Yes.
So we go from builders to leaders. The next group is beta. Who's the sharpest pencil here? When do you think beta is? Thursday at 1 o'clock. See how simple we make this? We got to make things simple for people. So here's what I did. Rather than worry about just my organization, I was playing the infinite game that Simon Sinek talks about. We created the family tree. Now we got the builders, we got the leaders. So leaders has 10. Once you get to 10, now you want to get to beta, which has 200 in their total line, or 25. And the numbers might be a little bit off, but we can get that to you. Then from beta, you go to alpha. Now here's the challenge. When I went to alpha, who's ever had the success only to find out it wasn't what you thought it was going to be?
Right.
So I went to the beta group and I was so excited. I was like, I made it. And then I go to the calls and it's just a bunch of bitching. So here's what I did. I said, well, I don't want to be on these calls for the next 50 weeks based on the way that they are. So rather than bitch about it, what do you think I did? Hey, we're lacking community. So I booked a house that cost $9,000 a day. And I invited all the alphas to come. And next week I go and spend 3 or 4 days in a house, 2 full days, 2 half days with 21 alphas locked in a house with no corporate. Who thinks that we're going to have community at the end of those 4 days, or we're going to have a big fight? Because here's what we have. If you have a relationship,
come on, Hank.
What's that?
I'm part of the alpha group. Why wasn't I invited?
So Sean, you want me to answer that?
Yeah,
because
please.
So here's the problem. Everybody do this, the pulse. So Sean, if you say that you weren't invited, that's a victim mentality.
It was a joke, actually.
No, but no, I want to point this out because here's the reality. There's so much going on within EXP that if you have a problem, there's already a solution. The question is, do you know about it? Sean didn't know about the alpha retreat. Here's why. Are you on the alpha calls on Thursday?
No.
Okay, so if you're not in the alpha calls, are you going to miss communication that's happening? So if you're not in the leaders call, if you're not in the builders call, you're going to miss communication within EXP. And the reason I said the pulse, how are you getting the pulse on the company? And it doesn't necessarily have to be the alpha call, but the question is, if you don't have a pulse on the company, how good of a job are you going to be doing at attracting? So when we look at this, what are you doing to get a pulse on the company? For me in the beginning, it was the leadership calls on Fridays. Once it went from the leadership calls and it went to the influencer calls. You need 1 hour a week where you are in the know of what's going on within EXP. So for example, I saw many of you complain about the ICA changing. Well, who thinks that there was conversations within these calls about changes that were going on and we didn't get caught? So here's what I'm going to ask that you do. If you ever feel that you're not in the know, ask yourself where you're putting yourself in position so that you can have a pulse for the company. Who thinks that after we have 21 alphas, which represents almost half of our alpha group, in a house together, we're going to have a much better relationships amongst the top, and then it will disperse down?
Yeah, I agree. And I need to
Sorry,
move my
Sean.
coaching client. No, it's all good. I need to move my coaching client because that is not Thursday at 1:00. It's Thursday at 11:00.
11.
Yeah. So I can move a coaching client and free up that time. I'll be there.
Now, here's where we need to look at our schedule. If it's not in your schedule, it doesn't exist. Here's what I know with Sean. If we can get Sean Kikoska on that alpha call for the next 50 weeks, is Sean going to show up to that call if it's just a bitch session or things aren't getting done? No way.
Hell no.
I know this. Will Sean show up and be a leader amongst there if he's going to take an hour out of his time? And I know 1 year from now, if we can get all the alphas showing up for the influencers where we're coming from contribution, our company will start winning at the next level. Our company, our biggest threat right now is dying from within. It's not real. It's not Compass. It's not any other company. It's us not being a united front. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
So here's what I need from everyone. I need you to step up and not be takers. Ask where you can help hold the chain of this company, whether it's an EXP Family Tree, whether it's in the builders group, whether it's in the leaders group, whether it's in beta, whether it's in alpha. And here's what you do. You leave it better than what you found it. You leave it better than what you found it. Here's what I love about this company. You don't need to wait for permission to do something. If you see a problem, go solve it. Who's running the builders, leaders, and betas call now? Is it Hank? No, it's not Hank. If you go and fix a problem, you can hand it off to corporate. So I do it, then we do it, then they do it. How many of you have some things where if you saw a problem, you could go put it together and then hand it off and allow somebody else to do it, and we'll be able to go much faster. Stop reinventing the wheel.
Right on. There's a question. Is there a group for us just starting out, 0 to 4 FLAs?
Yes, it's called EXP Family Tree, and it's called Go Get Your Teeth Kicked In. And here's what it means is you got to be resourceful enough to get to 5 and stop being an asshole and just go make it happen. And here's what an asshole is. Well, how? Go put somebody in a headlock and say, I will watch your kids every Friday night so you can have a date night if you join EXP. And guess what? If you solve someone's problem, it doesn't have to do anything with real estate. They'll come over to EXP. So go get 5 people, whatever it takes. Sorry.
Ask whole. I like that. That's pretty good. ASK whole. Okay. Just making sure that we're clear. All right. So Hank, let's kind of rewind the tape. Let's talk about the 5 and the 1.
Yep.
Okay. So you made 50 connections, right? You got in front of 50 people. I'm sorry, 20 connections, whether it's comment on their post or a DM or whatever the case is, then 5 that you're going to do one-on-one somehow, some way. And it doesn't matter what modality, correct?
Correct. Doesn't matter at all.
Okay, so it could be text, could be email, it could be direct message.
It needs to be a back and forth exchange.
Okay. Exchange, okay, to lead to one conversation.
Yep.
So let's talk about that 5, the back and forth exchange. What are some things that you're saying? Let's say that they say, yeah, I'm interested in a phone conversation. So you pick up the phone, you call them. What do you say?
Hello? But and here's where the context is, because if you do the 50-20 and the 5 properly, you have some sort of context for it. So let's say that we've been talking finances. So who would like to see a little bit of this in action? So I show you real world. Sean, is it okay if I share it?
I'd love to see it. Are you okay on time?
Okay. Yeah, we're good. So let's look at this. Financially, do most real estate agents make way too much money to be this broke? Yes. So one of the things that I do is I'll post about financial IQ, and Sean's been a big help with this over the years. And here's what I do. We'll go right to, oops, wrong screen. We're going to go right to my Facebook, and I'm going to show you exactly how this is done. So we go to, can you guys see my Facebook right now?
Yep.
So we go to friends, and under friends, we're going to have what we have custom lists. So under custom lists, we're going to have financial IQ. These are all people that have raised their hand that they want more posts from me or engagement on financial IQ. So if I'm doing something and I post on Facebook and it's about finances, I know that Facebook will show it to all, 300 people that are on that list. So if I get in front of all 300 people on that list, what I'm looking to do is upgrade the conversation. Now, back in the day, before we had more eyeballs on us, what I used to do was I used to post my rev share checks. So every single month I had a custom list of people that I talked to about EXP, and I would post my rev share check. Now you can't do that now. You know, we now know that that's not. But do you think that got some attention when I was posting my rev share checks every single month? In fact, I was actually brought up on stage for the national meeting because of that technique. But here's what got us here won't get us there. Do we all agree with that?
Absolutely.
So the 5 is this. I want to know how they're coming in, and then I want to get them from a positive presence to a negative presence. So here's one that helps me a lot. By a show of hands, how many of you, your minimum goal is to not be a burden on your kids in retirement? Fair? So for me, that minimum number is $600,000. I got to have $600,000 in a paid for house, and I don't have to worry between Social Security and my run rate on my kids taking care of me. So one thing I might do is I might ask the question, hey, are you prepared for retirement? How many people do you think in our industry are prepared for retirement? Not many. And then here's what I'll do. I'll push on the pain. I won't give prescription. I'm not giving prescription. I'm pushing on the pain. And then I'll share my story. When you can get vulnerable and you can get real and you can be transparent, will people relate to you when you're willing to have tougher conversations?
I believe so. I believe that to be true, Hank.
So that's what I do, Sean. In those 5 conversations, I don't want to have surface. I'll do common sense math. If someone's married 7 years and they have 3 kids, what do you think their marriage is like at that point? Not very good. Hey, when you were at that spot, when I was at that spot 7 years in, I was thinking about getting a divorce. Have you thought about it? Now, you got to read your audience. If they look at me like I'm crazy, then I don't keep pushing. But if I ask that question and they look like they just saw a ghost, let's talk. No judgment.
Okay.
This won't leave this space.
Let's kind of shift gears here because we don't have much time left. That's for sure. In fact, we've gone 5 minutes over, and Hank, thanks for the extra time. I've got a hard stop here in a few minutes yet. Talk about the 1. Let's talk.
That's
about
the one. That's the one where that's the one is where you discover maybe somebody's behind in retirement and they're scared to death because they know that they're going to be a burden on their kids if they don't fix it.
Love it. So guys, positive present to negative present to negative future, negative future. Now they're open to a positive future. So many of you are going from positive present. Imagine a box with 4 quadrants, right? And I've taught this so many times. Yet upper left-hand box, positive present. That's where they're at. I'm at Remax. I'm happy. I believe that it's going to bring me to the upper right box, positive future. I believe that if I stay at Remax, so they're positive present. And here's the challenge. Many of us, we want to EXP all over them, right? Well, I understand you're happy where you're at Remax, yet if you make the decision, you come over to EXP, well, guess what? You're going to be so much happier. You're going to have a much more positive future. And guys, that's not how it works. We started talking about switch costs. We started talking about pain versus pleasure. Many people don't move toward the pleasure or what they're going to gain. They move away from pain. And I'll say at least 99% of people. So how do we move them from that positive present mindset to negative present? Are you set up for retirement?
Do you have your taxes done?
Yeah. And Hank, I'll share with you what I've been doing as of late. This has been going on for about 8 months, and I'm telling you, it's highly effective. What I do is I start every call and I simply say, today's call, it's all about you. I literally want to meet you where you're at. So tell me what needs to happen over the course of the next 30 minutes for you to hang up this call and say, Sean, that was like a 14 or 15 on a scale from 0 to 10. And whatever they say, I say, that's my job. That's what we're going to talk about today. We'll make sure to cover that. Yet prescription before diagnosis, let's malpractice. So in an effort to really do an apples to apples comparison, what I want you to do is I want you to rate your brokerage on a scale from 0 to 10 on several different points, from business development, lead generation, your net worth, your residual and passive income, things like that. Would that be okay with you? They always say yes. So let me give you context to the 0 to 10 rating. A 0, 1, or 2 would be considered poor, in need of immediate improvement. A 3 or 4 is fair. 5 or 6 is good in varying degrees. 7 or 8 is very good. 9 or 10 is excellent. Can't get any better. Okay. Now, when you respond, give me just one number. For example, if you say it's a 5, meaning it's good, the 5 on the lower end of 5 means that it's stuck, it's stagnant. There's no real plan in place to bring it to very good or excellent. A 6 on the other end, the upper end of good, well, that means that it's good right now, yet you're trending toward very good or excellent. Are you with me? So there's 5 points I get them to rate their current brokerage on. Number 1, the technology platform that they're providing to them to give them more leads, generate more appointments, do more contracts, make more money, 0 to 10. Second point, education, 0 to 10, improving their knowledge, skills, mindset, and habits. Third point, now here's where I turn up the heat. Your brokerage's ability to give you the opportunity to go head on head with Open Door and Redfin with an iBuyer program, to where you personally can go to anybody in your state, give a cash offer within 24 hours, close as soon as 10 business days. Do they provide that to you? And if they do, rate it 0 to 10. Okay. Fourth point, again, I'm going to turn the heat up. Your brokerage's ability to give you stock equity ownership in the brokerage you work so hard for, 0 to 10. And then the fifth point, revenue share, residual and passive income, where you make money based on other agents within the brokerage, their production, 0 to 10. Now, the first 2, they generally go a little bit higher. They're like 5 or 6 on number 1, 3 or 4 on number 2. And then guys, it's 0, 0, 0. So then I add it up and I simply say, so out of a possible score of 50, you've given your current brokerage an 8. Now, if we use the academic grading system, that would be a 16%, definitely not a passing grade. Yet, how do you feel about that number? Do you believe it's accurate? When they say yes, guys, they've moved firmly from that positive present mindset to the negative present. Then it's about negative future. So tell me, what does your life look like? Your business look like? Your income, your net worth, your stress level, and everything else, if nothing in the ratings you've just given your current brokerage changes? 5 years down the road, what does that look like? What does it feel like? Negative future. See, now it's positive future. So we talked about the technology platform. You gave it a 5 on a scale from 0 to 10. Are you open-minded to see how we can almost magically move that from a 5 to a 10 here at EXP? So I tell them about KB Core. I tell them about making it rain, how we can put that lead generation on autopilot. And then I ask the question, what do you like the most about that aspect of the model? And I'll do it with the other 4 points. Then I finish with revenue share and we cast a vision. And after 3 years, if you attract 1 agent per month at the current rate of income per agent per month, if they're quarter cappers, you'll be earning over $23,000 a month after 36 months, 3 years. Then I ask the question, I ask the question, what would you do with the extra money? Get them dreaming. I write down everything they tell me. If you stay at Remax, how are you able to do that? They would say, well, I can't. So we're having this conversation. 3 years from now, you're making $23,000 a month. You're able to, and I loop back to everything they tell me. You're able to travel. You're investing in real estate. You're building your custom dream home. You bought that sports car. Would that make you happy? Would it make you even happier than you are right now? Would it make your family happy? Don't you and your family deserve to be happier than you are right now? Well, let's do this. Let's complete the application. And that's it in a nutshell, you guys. And it takes 30 minutes. But Hank, it's that positive present to negative present, negative present, negative future to positive future. And that's what I think is lacking at EXP. And this is why I think we're getting a bit of a reputation of being only recruiters. Is that fair?
100%, because people are doing the best that they can for what they know. All of my suffering is my judgment of them. We just got to get to the skill set that we have in real estate. And the only way that we can do that is by coming to these trainings that Sean's putting on. I see Chuck Keller on here and he's in my upline, by the way. He's never once not been available for me. Not once.
Chuck is a rock star. I'm telling you.
He's a stud.
I have the
And so
pleasure
when I said that
of
about
coaching
my
with Chuck and
upline,
Doug. Good guys. I'm telling you.
Don't depend on your upline for anything more than what you want to be dependent on for. Usually it's people who are making excuses as to why they're not actually doing the work. Fair or unfair?
Well said, Hank. Well said. Hey, Tim Ventura, could you do me a favor? Could you post our social media links? I want everybody to get access to our groups because, guys, we post videos just like this one there every single week. I'm shooting, customized videos. I'm just focused on adding value. Just whatever information I can glean, I'm going to share it with you. And I'm going to do it through these channels. So, Tim, please post the link so they can join our groups. Hank, if they want to join your group, can they?
Yeah, just come to EXP Family Tree. Everything that I do for my groups is on there. Proximity is power.
Well said. No doubt about that. You got to get in the right rooms. That's for sure. All right, Hank,
Cool.
thank you so much.
Sean.
Do you have just 2 minutes?
Yeah.
I've got 2 minutes. Is there one burning question that somebody has for Hank that you'd love to ask? Going once, twice, 3 times. Hank, you're my brother. I'm so glad to be here at EXP with you. Thank you so much for just pouring into all these people. You add so much value everywhere you go. So keep doing it, bud. Thank you.
My
for your
pleasure.
time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.